Welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters. Hi, Toronto. Give it up, get excited. We're about to have our first Terran versus Terran of the tournament on the stage. You guys ready? Our first player, he is considered to be one of the hottest rising Terrans in the entire scene. He won the Gfinity StarCraft 2 tournament recently. He's tall, he's thin, he's Danish. Put it together for Liquid Bunny. And his opponent, who you just watched crush again from Team Liquid, TaeJa. Good luck, guys.
Okay, players are almost ready. We'll send them off to their booths momentarily. And back on the couch, we have familiar faces from WCS, of course. It's actually almost like a mini WCS team right now from Europe with Kalaris and Apollo. How did you enjoy that first match then?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, crazy,
these kind of games, the games that you remember. And that's what that was.
Yeah, that one will stick out, won't it, for a while? I think none of us will forget that one. Just looking at these two players, it's a really interesting matchup for many reasons, not least of which because Bunny has just continued to destroy Koreans left, right and centre. He came through a bracket yesterday which was just absurd. I mean, not many people would have given him a hope in hell of getting out of it. And he comes through. And then he goes into a group where you look at it and just go, oh, how does he get out of this one? And he 2-0s Polt.
I mean, yesterday 2-0 versus Oz, today 2-0 versus Polt. Jarrett is right. He is one of the biggest rising players right now.
Yeah. But not only that, though, but from what I heard about the Polt game is that he actually played extremely well in it to defeat Polt. Yeah. So, I mean, Bunny right now is looking on top of the world when it comes to non-Koreans.
They even managed in a 2-0. It was a best of 3 that they had a draw in the first match, and then a 2-0.
Yeah.
So he seems to be able to cope with whatever can be thrown at him, even Polt at his finest he can deal with.
So here's a question to you. So Red Bull just happened.
Yes.
TaeJa versus Polt.
Yes.
Polt won 3-0. But Bunny just beat Polt 2-0, and now Bunny plays TaeJa. What does that mean? Does that mean that Bunny's going to win?
It's supposed to be our problem solver, Paul.
You're our Terran player on this couch, right?
In some sort of alternate universe, I mean, yeah, when you were a kid, you did look at stuff like that, didn't you? You were like, well, if he beat him and I beat the other guy, then I must be able to beat this guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure Bunny's going to be looking at that and thinking, yeah, I can take that, take teammate down, no problem at all. It's like Team Kill Toronto. I think we're going to have to look back on this because it's already happening in this group, and we've got potentially others along the way as well.
As much as you should never doubt TaeJa, I mean, Bunny is actually in an all right position to do pretty well in this series, I feel.
Do you both think, though, that still, I mean, I know he won Gfinity and it wasn't classed as the Premier thing, let's leave that one alone, but do you still think there's a niggling little thing there that Bunny's like, he's so annoyed. He's like, I've won a tournament now, and I now need to win one of these so-called Premier ones, and this is a really big one. It's the biggest one we're going to have of the year, potentially, of all these Koreans coming in and GSL players, Kesper players and what have you. But actually, pressure-wise, no one expects him to win this. So he's got that kind of going for him. All the pressures with TaeJa, he didn't win his last final. It's only the second time he's lost a final. So he's still got that pressure in there, and he knows, Bunny knows, that TvT is not something that TaeJa is currently comfortable with. I
think Bunny overall is probably just quietly of course, like, you know, he knows TaeJa's reputation. He's on the same team as him. He knows a lot about his teammate, right? But Bunny has this aura of, well, I don't give a damn.
Yeah, no, that's exactly
kind of what I get from when I see Bunny.
Okay.
But he just plays so well off the back of it.
Just very quickly, Sean, and both of you for that matter, prediction for this game, prediction for the group.
Oh, that's two very difficult questions.
Yeah.
I have to side with TaeJa. How can you not? Just after what he played as well, you have to go for TaeJa. For the group, so if I go TaeJa first place, we could see Zest crawl back into this, I think.
He's got the quality, he's got the class.
Yeah.
Kalaris?
I have to echo that. I really think I do. Okay. TaeJa here, just can't doubt him at all. And then Zest, he's a winner. He's a champion. And he plays in a region where, you know, comebacks and things like that can be extremely hard sometimes, but Zester's done them, and Zester's shown that he's taken out some of the best Terrans in the world. So
Okay.
I think that he also will claw back.
It's a bit of a Team Liquid day today. Snoot has taken out Hero. CJ enters Hero, not able to get out of the open bracket for the first time in his Intel Extreme Masters life. We've only ever seen him make finals. In the 3 previous attempts that he's been to an Intel Extreme Masters this time round, couldn't even get into the group stages. It's time for 2 more Team Liquid players to go head-to-head. It's team kill time in Toronto as we go over to our commentary team. There are a couple of Terrans too.
Thanks, Paul. I think it goes fair to say we're some Terran players. We like us some TvT. You guys excited?
Yeah, man.
The crowd seems at least mildly interested.
They're like, oh, it's just TaeJa and Bunny.
You know, just
Nah,
two of the
no big
greatest
deal.
players we've seen in tournaments in the last couple of months.
Yeah. And that's going to be getting ready. We're actually
We're in the
already.
lobby.
Yeah, we're in. Oh, wait, maybe
We're-
I'm not. Oh, man.
QXC.
Big mistakes here. Wait, make sure I get invited.
All right.
Do that. Do that
Okay,
quick.
I know.
Figure
you
it
need
out.
to be able to see.
I was like all tab, just not even. I think I had my eyes closed at one
You're
point.
too focused on how awesome this game is going to be. But Terran versus Terran, we could talk about the matchup. 'Cause
All
I
right,
guess
so
this is kind of our
predictions.
thing.
Bunny is going to 5-0 TaeJa. And I'm basing that on the fact that Pult 3-0'd TaeJa last week and Bunny just 2-0'd Pult. So I think 5-0 is...
I'm not sure that's how math works. But
We're
it's a best of 3 for those of you who are at least mildly confused. I had a chance to watch some of the games that Bunny played against Pult that he played in the first match of this that was just going on backstage. But TaeJa, as you mentioned, it's very important to note that he did just lose. He lost in the grand finals of the Battlegrounds Detroit to Pult 3-0. And Bunny 2-0ing Pult kind of says something about that, I think.
Yeah, Bunny is definitely looking on point right now. Very good form. I think the only game that he's lost so far has been 1 game to Huck.
That one,
at this tournament.
the one map loss yesterday.
Yeah, the very first map of that series. And I went and talked to Bunny after the series. We kind of chat before and after all the games he plays. And the first thing he said to me, we made eye contact. He's like, "Don't ask me about that game." Just the first game against Huck, it didn't happen in his mind. He just let it go. And it's a really strong thing to be able to do as a player is, you have good games, you have bad games. Forget the bad games and keep moving on, keep pushing forward. It didn't affect him. He was able to win that series and carrying that momentum into day number 2, Intel Extreme Masters Toronto.
It's been a good Intel Extreme Masters for the Team Liquid players, for sure.
Yep.
And now they have to face off against each other. We're loaded in, as you guys can see, on merry-go-round for the first map of this series. In the top left position, we have the red Terran player from Team Liquid, the Korean. He is TaeJa.
All right, guys, let's start clapping now. Let's get ready. I want to hear a lot of noise for Liquid Bunny. Oh, I just did it. Don't worry, we're going to still do it anyway. In the top right-hand corner, Liquid Bunny! Man, I do that. Every once in a while, I do that. It's like this. I'm like, all right, I'm going to announce this player. The second word out of my mouth is a player's name. But anyway, both players opening with a supply depot at the ramp. And
Gas
TaeJa going
first.
for gas first, Bunny for gas first.
I think we joked about this earlier. At least I was talking to a couple people backstage. TvT is pretty much all gas first, almost. Almost everybody's exclusively opening with this.
Yeah, pretty much what happened in this matchup. So there were kind of 2 things, and one of them took a long time to kind of overcome the matchup and become the dominant force. The first one is the Banshee change. Cloak got a lot cheaper, and that's giving a lot more strength to these early gas first builds. The other change is really from the start of Heart of the Swarm, is the Medevac Afterburner is giving the aggressor in this matchup a huge amount of opportunities. And so the sooner you can get to that Medevac, just the more chances you have to quick boost into your opponent's main, kill, it's a mirror matchup. You kill 3-4 SCVs, that's enough to give you a decisive advantage. That's enough to have your third command center be down that much faster, your upgrades that much faster. Sometimes you have to make the decision when you're down on economy. You have to choose between either a third command center or upgrades, additional barracks or upgrades. And when you have that slight worker lead, you don't have to make those decisions. You get both. You get a third command center, you get upgrades, and you're in a really good spot.
Yeah, I agree. I think in this matchup in particular, when you look at the maps, like Merry-Go-Round, you just have a huge main base. There's a ton of area that you have to watch out for where a medevac, as you mentioned, can come in. Multiple directions for a Banshee to approach from, even if you can't escape behind the main base. There's still a lot they can get in and do initially. And I think when you look at this, I guess we've seen Bunny and TaeJa play a reasonable amount of TvT lately. I expect to see that heavy amounts of aggression. I recall Bunny, I think one of the first map victory he took against Pult, he used, and it wasn't the earliest stage of attacking, but he opened up with a Raven, and then
Raven double medevac.
Yeah, he went, exactly. The 3 auto turret drop, the 2 siege tanks, and it crushed him.
Yeah, and that's I came here right after Detroit along with Bunny, Snoot, Stardust, Kane. We've been spending a lot of time in the internet cafe talking about strategy, and Bunny was pointing out to me, he's like, this is probably the best build in TvT right now. It's very new. A lot of players aren't familiar with it, and it ends games. You get this early Raven, you fly it in, like you said, 3 auto turrets, 2 medevacs unload, and all of a sudden you've got 2 siege tanks, 8 marines, 3 auto turrets in your opponent's base with 2 medevacs supporting, and unless you are really in a position to deal with that, it's very hard.
The auto turret's really been getting a lot of love lately in this matchup. I mean, people, I feel, underestimate it. It's got 150 hit points, 1 armor, so it's very difficult to deal with if you're the kind of guy that likes to pull SCVs to hold off early aggression.
Right.
And we're seeing both of these players open up Raven.
Yep. Okay, so the scout from Bunny it's very important what he sees there. So he does see the tech lab on the starport there, and he sees something start on the factory. He may or may not decide that it's going to be Cloak. The thing is, the scout was early enough that it could have been.
Yeah, he could have started the Banshee and then started Cloak, or
Right.
could have started a Raven and then Cloak. The Hellion goes to Scout, gets killed by the Marines.
Yeah. So I would say Bunny definitely with a decisive advantage right now, not any kind of game-ending advantage, but the difference in information is very important in this matchup. And that is going to allow Bunny to optimize his decisions a little bit better. But actually, you know what? Both players are doing literally the exact same build.
Yeah.
They're going to... Because TaeJa...
We weren't talking about this being like one of the best builds in the matchup for nothing. Both of these guys are smart enough to acknowledge that this is the dominant strategy in TvT these days.
And both players getting that early medevac. The thing here is TaeJa does not... Well, neither player really knows that their opponent didn't go Cloak Banshee. It was more likely for Bunny to know that because the Cloak hadn't started yet, but there's nothing to stop him from just getting the Cloak a little bit later. You can see the Marines are positioned defensively against any kind of Cloak play, any kind of drops, but there's really no aggression here that's going to come until those medevacs are out.
Yeah, TaeJa starts up his second one. I like to think, or at least when I'm playing in this matchup, I find that I have an easier time if I'm the first player to attack.
Yeah.
But do you think that there's any way that you can try to play with a defender's advantage of some kind against this?
So if your intention is not to keep the pressure off of you by counterattacking or doing the same build, then you have to make early Vikings. You have to intercept the medevacs far enough out of your base
that they can't unload.
Yeah, they can't just freely fly around, because the problem is if you don't have those early Vikings, the medevacs will threaten your main, then they'll be able to get to your natural and unload before your units can go. And yeah, they're literally doing the same thing.
This Marine from TaeJa sees
knows.
the Raven.
Bunny does not know, so TaeJa's going to have a slight advantage in terms of his positioning. Both players are scanning. The thing is, neither player has even close to the amount of units they need to actually defend this.
No, SCV's already being pulled off the line. The auto turrets drop. Siege tanks, of course, they're going to pick off the tank coming out. And the SCV's got around the tank of Bunny very quickly. These Marines still killing quite a few of them, but the drop has landed in Bunny's base as well. TaeJa drops the auto turrets. I like the positioning of him around the production of Bunny a little bit more, since the SCVs couldn't get on the tanks. And look at how much damage these auto turrets soak up.
Yep. TaeJa's positioning here is definitely superior. The tanks are doing a lot more damage, and Bunny is out of SCVs. He's out of units.
He has
He's
2
out
workers.
of SCVs.
He has 1 SCV now.
Meanwhile, Bunny has 3 Marines in TaeJa's base, but that's not going to be enough. The siege tank comes out, 1 Marine goes down, a 2nd Marine goes down, 3rd Marine is about to fall. Asterisk GG, Liquid TaeJa takes game number 1 in the mirror matchup, the mirror build.
Yeah, it's really crazy to think just how close everything was for the 2 of them, and then it all comes down to just that little bit of positioning, because TaeJa did not hesitate to pull SCVs,
Right.
and they were able to immediately get on top of those siege tanks, whereas Bunny, he had to get his SCVs around the production, and then TaeJa walled off next to the factory. He built two auto turrets so that the SCVs had to run all the way around.
Yep.
He was like playing tower defense to get to those tanks at that point.
So the positioning was really key. I think if one of the players had actually walled in their siege tanks with the auto turrets, that might have been really good.
Yeah.
Even the bigger difference, though, was Bunny sieged his tanks and TaeJa didn't. And it's interesting because that decision basically came down to TaeJa scouted the Raven and he scouted the Medivacs. So that when TaeJa goes into Bunny's base, he knows there's no units there. The siege tanks are a way to hold the position against your opponent's army, but the unsieged tanks are going to be superior against the SCVs. TaeJa knew that there was no army in Bunny's base because he scouted it. He's able to make the split decision not to siege his tanks. Meanwhile, Bunny does not know the same thing. And so the natural thing is always going to be to siege your tanks. If TaeJa's army was there, he's not going to be able to hold the position unless he sieges his tanks.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. It prevents the siege tanks from performing any friendly fire on their auto turrets or any of the other units that were taking that SCV fire.
And the damage output on siege tanks unsieged is very high.
It's still very fast, yeah.
They've got a huge amount of range, and you can actually micro them. Like, if you imagine SCVs killing siege tanks that can be loaded into medevacs.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. But as soon as the tanks siege, they become so vulnerable. They can be completely surrounded. There's no maneuverability at all. But those unsieged tanks are
There's a
just...
smirk on TaeJa's face. He's like, I love these. I love TvT right now is what he's thinking to himself.
That's not what it sounded like in his interview. Well, but TaeJa interviews are always like that.
TaeJa doesn't give straight answers in interviews.
No. All right, do it.
All right. And of course, he is our red Terran player in the top right position. Currently up 1-0, one map win away from advancing out of this group. He is Liquid's TaeJa.
And in the bottom left-hand corner, currently down 0-1, your hero from Denmark, he is Liquid Bunny!
So what are the chances we see gas first again from both players? I think I'm pretty high.
I think Bunny's going to go Reaper.
What do you like about Reaper on this map against the gas first?
It's not about this map. The only map that really favors Reaper play very heavily is Catalina and perhaps Foxtrot.
Yeah.
I just think that this is kind of a thing that you do as a player in a tournament, is when a situation arises that goes unfavorably for you, you try as hard as you can to not replicate it. You have no idea, like, exactly why Bunny lost that last series is perhaps because of that one Marine. But it was a situation that he lost, and so let's like, maybe there's other stuff going on that TaeJa knows better about that situation. You already lost in it once, don't do it again. And so any way you can change it up is good, and just from speaking to Bunny, I know he really likes Reaper. So that's how I knew.
Fair enough. I mean, Reaper play, I personally like it myself. There's some weird counter plays I've seen to it, though, out of gas first builds. One that comes to mind is Cure versus Yoda in the Battlegrounds Online, where he did like gas first into Reaper and then just sent his first Hellion across the map and did a lot of early pressure. And I found even in my games it's very difficult to deal with if you're not prepared for it.
Yeah, and the Hellion is such a good assistant to the Reaper. They kind of tag team along very well. The Hellion with the same range, but well, here, let's see the scout. What is he going to do? He's going to keep going.
Yeah, the wall's finished, so he doesn't quite know that second gas, that the gas was a little bit later.
Right. He knows enough, though. So the SCB scout off of a Reaper build is really just confirming gas first, not gas first, and proxy, not proxy. And he's confirmed not gas first, and he's confirmed not proxy. The Reaper is going to get all the subsequent scouting. If he could have kept the SCV alive, that would have been better. But I think he didn't realize that the Marine would be so far out.
Yeah, the way that these builds line up, I guess the big difference really, the command centers are timed the same, the reactors are timed the same.
Yep.
But Bunny gets the second supply depot a little bit later, and he has the scouting utility of the Reaper. And these Marines not being in position means
he
that
should
Bunny
be able
can
to
get some
this
damage done.
He's going to get this first SCV here, and that's going to be, this is enough to give a very nice advantage to our Liquid Bunny right now. The command center is going to be quite a bit later than TaeJa's, and this also throws off some of the SCV, the supply depot timings. Some builds are timed out very precisely where you depend on that command center to break your supply limit. When the command center gets delayed like that, it's not able to function in the same way.
I think that's a really important point. If you think it doesn't end up like delaying the mineral income too much, if you get supply block, that'll hurt if he does a follow-up attack, especially.
Right. And now TaeJa is stabilized. Bunny has a nice one-worker advantage with both players lost their scout, as well as, of course, that worker that just died. And now this is kind of the main question, is how are both players going to transition? Bunny's taking his second gas, so it's almost certainly going to be... No, I'm not sure. I was going to say Banshee, but he just started a Widow Mine. So perhaps we're going to see a Widow Mine medevac drop. Meanwhile, TaeJa is actually going for double Hellion production, staying on one gas.
Yeah, I always like Hellions in this matchup for trying to catch any of those early plays that come in, because once you get enough Hellions to burst down Marines coming out one at a time from a medevac, it's very easy to stop pressure like that. And I think if, as you said, Bunny potentially goes for a quick medevac drop, having a lot of Hellions, as long as they're on his side of the field, should help. But he starts a tech lab.
Yeah, so I'm not familiar with.
He's just going to go for this very late Banshee.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the build that Bunny's doing, but perhaps the Widow Mine is just to keep be a little bit safer against this type of play that we are going to see from TaeJa. He's continuing to make Hellions out of that reactor factory. He's making a medevac. Yeah, well, actually the Reaper got in there, got one more SCV. So 3 workers killed.
He saw everything.
Yeah, he knows what's going on here. The Widow Mine's going to give him a lot of information, maybe even pick off. It'll get 1 unit at most, but it can get some nice damage done.
Do you think he wants to run the Hellions by and then drop the Marines in the main, or is he going to try to do a full frontal assault?
There's a lot of different ways to do it. It really just depends on what he's expecting. What does he think? How does he think Bunny's going to defend this?
I don't think he should be able. I think Bunny should be able to deny him from unloading, because now these Hellions are
this is not going to work.
One.
This
the
is going to be
splash damage is beautiful in that bunker.
Yeah, Bunny is totally ready for this. He might have been able to just keep going with the Hellions because that bunker in the natural only has 1 Marine. But he's going to take out the Widow Mine. The main thing here, though, is I'm not sure TaeJa... Oh, no. TaeJa saw the starport with the tech lab. He's got 2 turrets down. So the Banshee will be a nuisance, but it's not going to be game-ending.
Do you think he purposely delays finishing this missile turret just in case he can cancel it?
Yeah,
He wants to make sure Cloak finishes. That's pretty smart.
Yeah, that's a pretty common mind game in this matchup. You start Cloak, your opponent scouts it, you cancel Cloak, and so TaeJa's playing. He's like, well, if I can save 200 minerals, like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna cancel those turrets.
It's not a bad play. I think the biggest thing that I'm noticing right now in this game as this Banshee comes in, which shouldn't do too much because there's also the Viking here to defend. The infrastructure setup is getting ready for both of these players. I feel much faster for Bunny. He's already got 3 barracks complete.
Yep. And that has mostly to do with the Hellions. And the Banshee's actually going to get in here, does a bit of damage to that siege tank. But this whole game, it's not been about like big game-ending damage. It's about Bunny is just doing a lot of poking, a lot of bit of taking bits and pieces of TaeJa's economy and infrastructure apart. You can see he's up a couple of workers now, a little bit of supply, and the Banshee does get away there. TaeJa,
and if you force on another scan, I think that's definitely gotten more than you were looking for, aside from the scouting.
He's just going to chase it down, because he knows that the Banshee didn't have that much energy left. So he uses 1 Viking to chase it, sends the other one home in case of a second Banshee.
So TaeJa's finishing up his 2nd and 3rd barracks, as Bunny has now halfway complete his 4th and 5th rack. So Bunny has a crazy amount of production and no 3rd command center. So we could see a very big 2-base push from him. And TaeJa's in a similar spot, but he still could get his 3rd command center before his extra barracks.
Yeah, he's actually... This is going to open up a huge amount of opportunities for Bunny in about a minute.
TaeJa starts the 3rd.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
Sorry, that was the... Yeah. So, because TaeJa starts his 3rd before the 4th and 5th barracks, plus the fact that since TaeJa committed to those early Hellions, which occupied a lot of his minerals, Bunny's stim is faster, his 4th, 5th barracks is faster, and you can see it's already translating into a very big supply advantage. 12 supply in the mirror matchup is a big deal. They're both making the exact same units.
Yeah, it's 28 Marines right now to 18. The tank count's about even. Bunny has yet to really get his medevac production going. He's got his first 2 about to come out. Plus, I mean, I'd say mostly like the really important upgrades aren't too far ahead, but if he attacks with Stim and his combat shield being done so much faster, even with the +1s being the same, like
Right.
you could almost just kill him because of how much extra production he's at.
Stim and shields are so important in this matchup. They're kind of the equivalent of a +1 that you might see like in Terran versus Zerg or Terran versus Protoss. You know, you're down on upgrades. Can you actually take that fight? It's the same thing with Stim and shields in this matchup. If you fight with Stim shields, your opponent has no upgrades. It's like a full 1-1 above your opponent. And even just Stim and shields versus no shields, it's still a huge advantage.
You don't just win that fight, you annihilate your enemy.
Yeah, you crush through. And Bunny's now starting to move out on the map. He's playing a little defensively, leaving one siege tank at home, but that's the nature of this matchup. It's very hard to always keep track of your opponent's army, and one Doom drop, 3 or 4 medevacs is game ending.
Yeah, if you lose your add-ons especially, then you just simply can't keep up in production, and all comes down to defending at that point. Bunny is actually going to build a planetary fortress at his third base, QXC.
He did that against Pult as well, and it opens up more opportunities for you to be aggressive in this matchup. You have to commit far less units, and actually Bunny's moving in here, spreading out his Marines, a lot of siege tanks doing some damage here, but Bunny just has he has so many more units than TaeJa. TaeJa's army is all scattered. He's got to pull back the Marines now, but a pretty decisive battle for Bunny.
At the very least, he's delaying this third base for mining. TaeJa's got to break this position, and with the counter drop, he will be able to, but it's important to keep in mind that, as you said, that defensive posture the planetary fortress gives him allows him to be mining and muling away as much as he needs to.
Yep. And the other thing here is, even though, so at first the trade went very well for Bunny. Then TaeJa very quickly brought his units from his main. He's able to clean that up. But because Bunny's infrastructure is much faster, he's going to be able to come out of those trades just that little bit more ahead. If both players trade down units, but one player is able to reproduce faster, that player has the advantage. So you can see Bunny still maintaining this solid, it kind of fluctuates between 6 and 20 supply advantage.
Yeah, Bunny's moving out towards the east tower now, and TaeJa catches a glimpse of this coming. So Bunny holds this position. In the long run, I think, having the third orbital is always nice because of scans and whatnot, but without any forces going around to harass yet for Bunny, I think I feel like TaeJa has an edge as far as economy or at least map control goes by being able to scan or mule more freely.
So, yeah, the basic trade-off is you're losing some economy and you're losing some flexibility. Boy. This is more important than anything we've talked about so far.
This could be game right now.
It's going right by TaeJa's vision. And the Marines are, he's got a huge Marine force here. He's got to siege all of his tanks right now, stimming the Marines.
TaeJa runs straight in the tanks, not able to siege in time, and he is killing quite a few of these forces, but Bunny with these upgrades, with everything, is just, he trades a lot, but I feel, did he get what he's looking for from this?
No, TaeJa is definitely in a very nice advantage right now. TaeJa playing very defensively. He kept almost his entire army at home. He had a couple of spotters out, and so even though he didn't see that attack coming, the units were there.
I really like the sensor tower at his third base because it tells him he can just keep his army between his natural and his main, and if anything comes, he should have enough time to respond or at least know that it's coming.
Right. And now Bunny is in a very difficult spot. Whatever upgrade lead he had has evaporated. Obviously, Stim and Shields don't have a +2 component there. So as that equalizes, both players are kind of sitting on the same set of upgrades, and now it's TaeJa's turn to go for that Doom drop.
Yeah, this will be very difficult to stop. It always is. Marines, Stim to the left. Not able to catch it, so he's got the counter drop onto the drop as the tank finishes up in the base of Bunny, starting to siege, but all of TaeJa's tanks are able to siege up.
Yeah.
And there's a couple barracks not done here.
And this is going to be incredibly hard for Bunny to hold right now. TaeJa has a very strong foothold in Bunny's natural, and you can see TaeJa is streaming units across the map right now.
He's gonna hit from the other side.
Yep, so what he's gonna do is, as soon as Bunny commits a lot of units into his main, which he's doing right now, TaeJa can just waltz into the natural, clean up these SCVs, no problem. Even if TaeJa's force in the main gets destroyed, TaeJa has such a strong foothold in Bunny's natural right now.
Brilliant plays by TaeJa with the phenomenal defense of Bunny's drop, and now I feel he secured himself what we can only call a game-winning advantage at this point. Not able to kill the natural, but he's got the natural locked down either way.
Yep. And with the 60 supply advantage, TaeJa's going to be a little surprised against his PF, but he's gonna going to try and kill the planetary with just Marines. I mean, that's cute.
It's not an easy thing to do. But I think even on one base, as good as Bunny is, one planetary, you don't have that comeback unit, the Mule.
Yeah. So his economy is stifled at this point, and without the map control, map presence here, Marines are going to move in. Another siege tank does fall, but TaeJa's position right now is unshakable.
You can't attack into this, especially when you're down supply. TaeJa's building 15 Marines at a time. He's got his +2 armor about to finish. His +3 attack is starting up, and he's also going over, I think, to start his 4th base too in the top left.
And with the Marine drop behind the mineral line here, he will not be able to continue mining from this planetary until he brings additional reinforcements. You can see TaeJa, he knows he's got this game basically in the bag, constantly streaming over. GG!
TaeJa being the first player out of this group with a phenomenal match against Zest and now his teammate Bunny. Of course, as this was the winner's match, both these guys still fighting it. They still have another opportunity to get out of this group. But man, TaeJa, he is a strong, hard guy to beat.
Yep, and now Bunny will be waiting to play the winner of Zest and Polt. Not an easy task, but he did already prove that he could take out Polt. TaeJa appears to have recovered whatever weaknesses he found in his TvT, looking very strong in both of those games.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in the first map just brilliant execution of that very popular siege tank drop with the Raven attack. And then in game number 2, it's mostly about, as you said early on, being aware of the opponent's army positioning. But really great series to see. TaeJa is looking sharp. We're going to hear what the guys over at the couch had to say about that match as well.
Thanks very much, Nath. Yes, back on the couch. Wow. What is there to say about this? Sum that one up then, Sean.
TaeJa is looking good this tournament, and I think he's actually going to start to quite go far. I think he's going to do well this.
Very popular with the crowd as well. Crowd really enjoying what he's put into that game.
He's beaten Zest. He had to do a team kill. He's playing well. He's got the crowd behind him, and we know that the Canadian crowd's awesome. So I think TaeJa's going to do very, very well in the bracket. Thrive
off it as well. We shouldn't put Bunny down. He's had a great run already, and he's not out of the competition just yet. But when you look at his group, it's a little bit scary because he now has to play the winner of a game that is between Polt, multiple champion, and Zest, multiple champion. It's not going to be easy either way around. What does he prefer, do you think? Polt again? It's got to be, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think going up against Zest, the thing is, Zest could have taken that series against TaeJa, and then translating that over to against Bunny here, I think Zest going the big favorite in that game.
I wonder if he even cares, to be honest. I think they're both so difficult. I think he's just like, whatever. I mean, they're
whatever
both good. I can't really pick one. I'll just do it.
At the end of the first game, interestingly, our production team switched to Bunny because he was smiling.
Yeah.
And I just thought, why is he smiling? He just lost. Why is he laughing? Was that an ironic? Was he like, oh, damn it, I knew he was going to do that build. I should have known better. Was it one of those?
Yeah, it was one of those. It's like, oh, here we go. Team Liquid kill. I'm playing TaeJa. It's like kind of one of those things.
Just resigned to his fate. So he goes down 2-0. TaeJa in really good form again. We always say this every summer, but it's almost like the summer never ends. I mean, 11 titles already, now going for a 12. Where does this stop? Retirement, presumably, is the only thing that's going to stop him this year, isn't it?
The word retirement is thrown around so often, and TaeJa's saying that he wants to retire. I mean, come on, man. You're making so much money. You're 19.
Why would you do it?
You're 19. You're making a lot of money. The funny thing is there's always one more tournament. That's what's going to happen to him because he wants to retire after BlizzCon, but he's already qualified to go to the World Championship for the Industry Masters. So it's like that tournament, and then all of a sudden he gets more WCS points again. And now he's like, all right, well, after this BlizzCon, so I don't know when he's going to stop.
All right, so we're not gonna take him at his word just yet, and just wait and see whether he actually does decide to finish. Or
when I see that mouse and keyboard hanging on the back of his bedroom door, Red Eye, that's when I know he hung him.
All right, okay. Bunny's future is, as we said, he's going to have to wait for that final game in the group. What do you rate his chances at right now? I'm going to make you the human version of a Ligulac right now. Give me the percentages.
That's easy enough. Again, I think if it's against Zest, pretty difficult. But if it's against Polt, then looking all right. I mean, his TvT is nothing to really sniff at. Of course, TaeJa's TaeJa, but that's what he does.
The only downside for him, I guess, is the fact that we've seen this a lot in previous competitions, and it's echoed its way through the open bracket yesterday, is when a foreign player plays a Korean for the first time and they win, they rarely beat them the second time round. For some reason, the Korean players just seem faster at being able to adapt. And other than Hero, of course, this morning, where Snoot actually did win against Hero again, which is a tremendous achievement from him. But in general, it doesn't always work out that way, does it?
That happens a lot, actually.
Yeah, it happens a lot. Usually because they don't play against these players very often, and so they don't really know what to expect, and sometimes get surprised in such a small best of. In a best of 3, you can get surprised quite easily. But when you come into the second time, you like, all right, well, he likes this.
Yeah.
These are his weaknesses. This is where I can exploit him. And they're very good, as you say, at picking up those small details to turn it usually into a win.
I mean, look at what Snoot did against Hero on that second time around. After that 2-hour mammoth-long series, the first one around, Snoot opens up the second series with an all-in. And just like, well, you were expecting Hero's there, he's drank all these coffees, he's getting ready, but then he just gets killed.
Yeah, literally Hero had the sleeping bag out ready for some more Swarm Hosts, and actually he got all in. Right, thanks very much, gents. Quick break here at the couch, and when we come back, we'll start on Group B. If you're wondering why, well, we've got that final Group A match, which will take place tomorrow to find out whether Bunny can make it through to the quarterfinals. Next up, it's Group B, though. You won't want to miss these.